Tsunami. Tsunami are typically generated by earthquakes. That's why we're talking about them in context with earthquakes. We'll start with an example, the tsunami of 2004 in the Indian Ocean, deadliest in recorded history. We'll look at tsunami waves and their characteristics, especially when they run up on shore here. We'll look at the drawdown and the run up. We'll look at how they are generated by earthquakes, typically subduction zone style earthquakes. But if earthquakes generate landslides, they can occur there, and volcanic eruptions. Finally, we'll discuss what we should do in the event of a tsunami. Here we go. First of all, Indian Ocean tsunami of 2004. It is among the deadliest in historic times. You can see here labeled Indian Ocean tsunami right here. Many tsunami actually occur in the Indian Ocean, but most occur in the Pacific Ocean. You can see from the Korean Peninsula down through Japan, the Philippines, New Guinea, New Zealand, and then on the east coast of the Pacific along the South American and Central American border, many tsunami occur. There are some that occur in the Caribbean and off the coast of Europe and Africa. There is a tsunami as well. This one, though, the tsunami of 2004 occurred on December 26 off the coast of Indonesia. And this was a 9.0 earthquake event. And it was a subduction zone style earthquake. So as one plate dives underneath another, it causes stress on the plate over top. And that top plate pops upward, disturbing the climb upward and shooting the water outward. 5 major waves occurred with the tsunami, 10 plus meters high. The final death toll was 280 plus thousand killed, with several million affected around the Indian Ocean. This visual shows where the actual slippage occurred, but there was slippage all along this area here, with the main shock being off the coast of Sumatra. 1,200 kilometers of fault line shifted 15 meters during this tsunami event, during this subduction zone event. Paleoseismology shows that movement along this fault occurs every 230 years or so, with very large events taking place. And the subduction of the Indian plate under the Burma plate took place here. There was unfortunately no Indian Ocean tsunami warning system, and the people at the Pacific Warning Center in Hawaii did note that there was a large earthquake, but didn't have any tsunami buoys, which are kind of like buoys that are able to detect the tsunami passing through and able to warn people then through communication networks. Since then, the buoys have been put and placed in the Indian Ocean and Atlantic Oceans because there wasn't a big network there either, and communication networks have improved. So it took a disaster of epic proportions in order to get this ball rolling, though. Here's a before picture and an after picture. Tsunami basically pick up all debris, swirl it around, and buzz saw debris and create more debris. And it basically just washes through and terrorizes an area, and then draws all that stuff out to sea, leaving behind destruction and sand. Here's another visual showing coastline before and after, completely wiped out and sand covered. So let's look at some of the characteristics here. Tsunami waves really don't have any set number of waves. It could be 1 wave, it could be 5 waves. There's 5 during the 2004 tsunami. No set wave is the largest. The 5th wave was the largest in the tsunami in 2004, but oftentimes the waves can be larger depending. The time between wave crests is 10 minutes or more. This is because tsunami wavelengths are so wide. In fact, if you were in the open ocean, you wouldn't even feel a tsunami go underneath you because it takes so long to climb up to the crest and then back down through the trough again. The actual height of the tsunami wave as it reaches shore depends on actually the depth of the coastline and the shape of the coastline, but the height can be anywhere from 5, 10, even 15, 20, 25, even 30 meters high. This little visual shows how tsunami wavelengths are so long, but when they get to shore, the energy from the wavelength builds up into height. And at a depth of 4.4 miles or 7,000 meters, the wavelength is 175 miles, and the speed is like over 500 miles an hour. But as the depth decreases, the wavelength decreases and the speed decreases, and so the height increases. Typically, before a tsunami wave hits, the energy of the incoming wave draws the water from shoreline out to sea, and so the tidal flat is exposed. Anytime this catches people off guard, and it did in the tsunami of 2004, but because it's really neat to see that sea pull back, but then the tsunami wave comes and you get picked up by the water, which 1 cubic meter of water weighs a ton. So it's plenty strong enough to pick you up, slam you into a tree, and kill you, or slam you into a tree, injure you, and then you drown. Okay, so this is a very terrible sort of situation. So if you see the water draw down, don't go out and collect shellfish or shells or fish. Run. Get to high ground or get to safety immediately. Because the run-up is coming. The term for the water surging past the shoreline is called run-up, and this surges several hundreds of meters inland. Okay, so pretty damaging, pretty devastating. And this is a great before and after picture of a drawdown than a run-up. As I said before, most tsunami are generated by earthquakes along subduction zones. Subducting plate drags the overlying plate down, and the overlying plate builds up strain and snaps back up, displacing large amounts of water. You can see that illustrated here in A, the locked plate slowly distorting, bowing the land upward and inward until, boom, it snaps, pops up, disturbs the entire water column, which sloshes upward and out. And you can see here an animation of this, hopefully. You see the locked plate, everything is creeping and moving. You can see this is bowing down and this is pushing upward and inward. And then pop, the earthquake occurs, the whole water column is disturbed from the seafloor down or up to the surface, and that causes the enormous water backlash. Case in point, a 9.5 subduction event, the largest in recorded history off the coast of Chile in 1960, generated a tsunami. There were 3 waves, each successively larger. Most of the deaths on the coastline in Chile occurred because of the tsunami. You can see the before picture here, the countryside with all the fences and trees and houses and so forth and buildings, and then the after picture, the devastation. Remember, tsunami leave a sand layer. You can actually go along the sediments and dig down and find a topsoil layer from the current era, and then that tsunami sand layer, and then the previous topsoil layer. The tsunami sloshed back and forth in the Pacific Ocean for a week afterward. When it originally was generated, it rushed across the ocean, hit Hilo, Hawaii, and killed 61 people, and then hit Japan. Another 185 people were killed, even though there was very much adequate warning. Here's the wave entering Hilo on that day, noting that some people were here like, what's going on? Other people have gotten to high ground. The next thing you know, 5 minutes later, water is swirling in. You can see the windows in the background here. Oftentimes, the water, because remember, the wavelength is so long, it takes the water time to surge inward. And so this is 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later. Now the window's pushed in, the water and debris are swirling. And that's how it all works. So the main tsunami threat for the United States coastline is the Northwest. Oregon, Washington, Northern California, British Columbia. There is the so-called Cascadia subduction zone there, where the Juan de Fuca plate, a little small subplate, and the Gorda plate and the Explorer Plate are being shoved underneath North American Plate here. All the volcanoes you see along the Cascade Range are created because of this. And this subduction zone here not only threatens the coastline with enormous earthquakes of 8 and 9 magnitude, but also tsunami. We think that a past event occurred here in 1700-ish. There's a tsunami sand layer and felled trees. The area is buckling up again. You can see that it is shortening and uplifting because of the lock plate. And when it pops, it's going to subside the whole area and extend back out. You can measure how much it's uplifting in millimeters per year and how much it's shortening in millimeters per year. And here's the look at the sand layer left behind by what we think was the 1700 tsunami in around 1700. And there's also evidence of felled trees where tsunami may have came through and broken down all those trees, leaving this stump graveyard along the parts of the coastline. Tsunami are also caused by landslides and volcanic eruptions. In 1998 in Papua New Guinea, there was an earthquake that jarred loose an underwater landslide that caused a tsunami. This caused us to rethink tsunami because up to this point it was thought just subduction zones did it. But this tsunami hit the coastline within 5 minutes and washed 4 villages off the barrier islands and into the lagoon. And above water landslides occur, landslides occurring into the water. Case in point, Lituya Bay, Alaska. In 1958, a large earthquake there jarred loose a rock fall that hit the bay, created a tsunami that was 150 meters high and ran up the banks of that bay some 500 plus meters. And there is a threat for this landslide activity in the Atlantic. The Canary Islands off the coast of Africa are a set of volcanoes that are pretty steep-sided and heavily eroded by the ocean waters. Very much a threat for tsunami that could hit Europe within a couple of hours. Lots of coastal cities at risk there. And the east coast of the US in 6 hours. The southeast coast in 9 hours. So pretty, even though there'd be advanced warning, there'd be pretty big devastation, lots of big costly disaster. And volcanic eruptions can cause tsunami. In Indonesia, in 1883, the Krakatoa volcano erupted and blew not only 250 plus meters above the water surface, but 250 below. And this caused a tsunami that raced across to hit Java and Sumatra and killed 36,000 people. So volcanic eruptions underwater can do this. Specifically, those island arc volcanoes we'll talk about when we get into volcanoes next time. Finally, warning in education. Simply put, if you feel an earthquake and you're on the coastline or on the beach, get to higher ground. Okay. Note that tsunami are not discriminatory in what they pick up and slam against one another, and they really do, because of the swirling debris and the power of water, are immensely destructive and destroy many things. So, if earthquake near a coastline, get to higher ground. If the shore pulls back, you only got seconds. So keep an eye out for that in the future. That education can save lives. Okay. There are warning systems in place now. More tsunami buoys are being put out there and better communication systems in place thanks to the great disaster in the tsunami of 2004 in the Indian Ocean. So that's a look at tsunami. Thanks for listening.